Karma, karma, karma is the topic of today's Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast with myself, Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Relationship Expert. And I have promised on several past episodes that I would talk specifically about karma because karma is often widely misunderstood as a form of punishment, and it's not punishment. Karma is like an energetic imprint. Now, I'm going to back up for a minute. If you've listened to the podcast before, you've already heard me talk about the fact that we are at our base energy. Even our physical body is formed by and contains the energy of our soul, the individuated aspect of the divine that is you. And your soul travels through lifetimes, past, present, future. Because time is not linear, even though our minds certainly like to think that it is. What we call past lives are technically happening all at the same time as the present life, because you imagine time as a circle, right? Galileo used the pendulum, moved it back and forth to create the concept of time. And if it continues cycling, it creates this circle. And so what is happening in a quote past life is just separated by space from the present life or future life. Meaning, hopefully that's not too confusing. So what that means is that your energy body, your soul, you can access this energy in you now. And by accessing this energy in you now, you can access a wound from a past life or even shift and change a quote future life. Because in the present moment, you're able to access your energy and shift it. And that spans across all lifetimes, that spans across all dimensions, that spans across all time and space, because energy is here now. When you make a shift in the now moment, you shift the quote past life. And that's how we do past life healing. So we access the electrons in your body, we access the energy in your body, and we work with that in the now to shift that past life trauma or wound, for example. And that's where the karma comes in, because the karma is an energetic imprint that you have carried forward from that other lifetime into the now moment. And it's not punishment, because it's something that you chose, believed, took on, thought at some point in your incarnation as a soul on this planet, or even other planets, quite frankly, but that's a whole other conversation. And that will remain part of your energy until you access that energy and shift it to come back into union. Now, that's why I tend to think of karma, particularly shadow karma or quote negative karma, even though all karma is just karma. There is no negative, positive, good or bad. It's all part of the soul's experience and desire to experience. We came on earth in part to experience separation because we are physically separated from others and the ego believes in separation. And so we came to experience that however many lifetimes ago. And that's not a problem. That is not a bad thing. We wanted to have this experience. And there also comes a point in the journey of the soul in which you decide to experience union. And then that's when you work with somebody like me, a soul embodiment guide, or another energy healer, or you learn how to do energy work with yourself, because then you work with the energy, which is the root of what has pained you, or the root of trauma, the root of karma, in order to heal it, in order to bring it back into union. Because generally, karma is what we tend to talk about it as, even though there's golden and there's shadow. I'll talk about in a minute. but it is ways in which we have turned away from the self, ways in which we have believed in the separation or acted upon it through violence, through fear, the ways we have separated from ourselves through violence or through fear, through persecution, the ways that we have created energetic ties and bonds with other people because we sourced from them instead of sourcing from God's source, instead of sourcing from the divine within you. And anytime our energy is going out in that way, instead of sourcing from within, we create these bonds, these ties, these cords, these connections with others that until they are healed, remain as an energetic imprint. Okay, so now this is a lot. Hopefully you're able to digest some of this. You might want to listen to this a few more times because this might sound brand new to you, and that's okay. So just take a big deep breath and release. Okay. So karma, if it's an energetic imprint, means that in order for us to bring that energy back into wholeness, back into union, then that usually is a matter of acceptance, recognition of the pattern, of the belief, of the energetic imprint. I'm talking in vague terms in this moment. That recognition, that acceptance, and then the transmutation or transformation of that back into wholeness through the power of love. That's why when we are saying things like, oh, that's just bad karma, oh, you deserved it, or oh, that must be, that they must have really bad karma for that to happen to them, usually lacks compassion. Not always, but usually when people are saying things like that, it lacks compassion. And I have my own memory of an experience in which I was sexually assaulted, and someone who really practiced yoga a lot said to me, oh, you must have done something in your past life to deserve that. And that was the last thing that I needed to hear in that moment, because that lacked compassion and it lacked love. And it's not always so black and white. It's because karma isn't punishment. And nor is it so black and white as in you did this, therefore you deserve that. That is actually based on this Judeo-Christian belief in hell and God as a punishing God, and that we are deserving of punishment. And you can believe that if you want. Personally, that belief doesn't serve me, nor does it feel like it's in alignment with my divinity, nor does it feel like it's in alignment with divine love. And so I've done a lot of work, and one of the things to help my clients with is doing this kind of work to release those beliefs, conscious or unconscious, from your own energy body, so that you are not perpetuating a belief system that is not your soul's truth. That's the core of the work I do, whether you work with me one-on-one in a divine activation portal, in the Sacred Body Wisdom series that I have, or at one of the workshops, at my retreats, right? We're working on shifting your subconscious mind, because karma, my perception of this isn't anything I've read anywhere, but my perception from the 15 plus years of looking at this and working with this and writing about this and researching around the soul and our energy system is that our karma often shows up in our subconscious. Our subconscious means it's below the level of consciousness, and we access the subconscious through our emotional state, generally. It is ruling us from underneath the level of consciousness, generally through our feeling emotional state. That's why you can think something, you can know something, like in my relationship in 2013, 2014, the man I was with was, I would say, possessive. And even though my conscious mind didn't like that and knew that was, quote, wrong, so I wouldn't use those terms today. That's what I thought at the time. This doesn't feel right to me. Something feels wrong about this, because that possessiveness wasn't love and it wasn't freeing. And even though I felt that intellectually, because I'd been a women's rights advocate for so long at that point, I subconsciously still felt like I had to give him what he wanted. I subconsciously still sought his approval. I subconsciously still wanted him to desire me. Subconsciously, in my feeling state, it didn't matter how much my intellectual, conscious thinking mind disagreed. My subconscious mind is what was choosing for me. And Bruce Lipton, biologist, he wrote a great book, Biology of Belief. I know he talks a lot about this as well. Says that 95% of our behavior is ruled by the subconscious mind. 95% of our choices and our behavior and our actions. And it's because we are acting based on this feeling state that is really keeping us in these karmic patterns. For example, we're acting on this feeling state when unexamined, when not brought to the surface, when you have not learned how to work with your emotions consciously and become curious about them and start tracing the root of your emotions to thoughts, to beliefs, to your soul's truth, and aligning it to your soul's truth, which again is the core of the work that I do, then you are beholden to the past or beholden to the karma. Therefore, in order to heal karma, it is about accessing what are the patterns showing up in your life, what are the emotions showing up in your life, and what are the thoughts and beliefs underneath, and ways that you have believed this, agreed to this, experienced this, what needs to be felt and seen and understood in order to transmute this back into wholeness, in order to come back into your power, in order to reclaim your sovereignty. What needs to be seen and felt and heard and understood? And this requires a really deep level of self-awareness and self-knowledge. I ultimately realized in that relationship that I was in with the one I was referring to, where he was possessive, that my karma was believing he could own me. My karma was actually he had owned me in a past life. And I had to free myself from my internal agreements to that. I had to free myself from beliefs and patterns energetically and emotionally that were connected to enslavement or prostitution, in which I was not allowed, quote, to be free in those lives. And I had taken on that as an energetic imprint that I was repeating in these cycles until I reclaimed my sovereignty, until I claimed my freedom and self-ownership, self-possession. Now, quite frankly, my path to sovereignty and this liberation that I created for myself through this level of embodied work and transformation is the reason I created the path to sovereignty as a business, and coaching and teaching workshops and leading retreats, because I have no doubt that this path to sovereignty is what will free all of us from the karma of the past, the trauma of the past, and the ways in which we have been owned or enslaved or possessed or prostituted. Because we are at a brink in our society, we are at a precipice in our society in which we are shifting from these forms of external control and external power over dynamics in our relationships, in politics, in the world, into we own our own power, and we free ourselves from those ways in which we have been bound by others or possessed by others. And this, sure, we can create laws, we can do these things in the world to shift this, to change this. I was a lawyer and I worked on Capitol Hill in the governor's office, and I can tell you that that's not the way that's actually going to create systemic change. That it is only through individual shifts and consciousness that we can actually change the system to change the world. And so it starts with you. Waiting for the system to change is not going to serve you. Waiting for other people to change is not going to serve you. So if you were in a karmic relationship, for example, which I might go into further detail in another episode about, you were in a karmic relationship and you were waiting for the other person to change, and you're telling yourself it's going to get better. Believe me, I know, I was there. It's going to get better. They're going to change. They're telling me they're going to, but they're not actually doing anything to change. Blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. Then you are, one, giving your power away. And two, you are not healing your own individual karma related to this person, because you can heal your karma in a dynamic with the other person, even if the other person is not doing that work, because you get to draw your cords back, you get to draw your power back, and you get to be in your sovereignty, even if they're not, because that dissolves the cords, because both people have to create the cords together, but one person, it's because each person individually was sourcing from the other. So you get to withdraw that back and in that karmic dynamic, regardless of the other person's ability to change. And I know for myself, I would ask myself the question of, okay, well, if I heal this karma and I change, then he's going to change too. And usually that kind of thinking keeps you stuck in loops of self-sacrifice and self-denial. And also, sometimes it can be true that as you shift energetically and claim your power and speak your truth and have boundaries you didn't have before, which is all related to sovereignty, that other person responds differently and they do their own work to release their own karma and their own cords, and they learn how to source from within, right? And sovereignty is to source from within, to source your power, source your love, source your value, source your worth from within. They're also doing that work and you're doing that work and you're both doing it consciously, and none of it comes at your expense, then yeah, you can do it together. But if it's coming at your expense, or you're the only one doing it, you think you can lift that other person up, or you're waiting for them to change, meanwhile you're hurting yourself, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to heal the karma, because the karma is requiring you to bring your power back. So in short, that when you look at karma as an energetic imprint, right? It is energy that you have given away. It is energy that you haven't yet aligned with, haven't yet accepted, haven't yet integrated. Energy that could be like the golden shadow, for example, which would be your karma, the golden karma, which could be your karma, your soul gifts, your good karma, your karma that is helpful to you in this lifetime, helpful to your soul mission, your soul purpose, helpful karmic connections. And also, no matter what it is, your role is to source from within. So, for example, I've seen people who have a soul purpose, right? But they are sacrificing themselves in order to, quote, fulfill the soul purpose, instead of recognizing that the soul purpose comes from their own level of embodying the uniqueness of who they are, and then everything overflows from that place. So even in those situations, people can be in patterns of self-sacrifice, believing they need to suffer, for example, instead of doing the inner work to heal the imprints that have left them in, say, lack or suffering, versus wholeness and peace and joy and abundance. I hope this makes sense, because I feel like I'm talking about things that, we don't generally talk about, and it can be confusing to talk about karma when what it really comes down to is your energy body. What it really comes down to is you being in your power. And recognizing that everything in your life is happening for you. But the way to come out of karmic patterns, the way to reclaim your power, is to become conscious, right? This is the self-awareness. To become conscious of everything that's happening in your life, recognizing it's happening for a reason. You're not a victim. Your soul has asked for this in some way, shape, or form in order for you to see what you need to see, to know what you need to know, to hear what you need to hear, to pull your power back, to shift out of a pattern that is not in your highest and best interest, and to align back into union, to anchor back into the divine being, the soul, truth that you are. That is how we heal from patterns of internalized separation or powerlessness, which is separation from the divine self within you. Powerlessness is separation from the divine that you are. The divine that you are is powerful, but we have chosen in past lives, hence the karma, to separate from our divinity, to separate from our truth. Now we have to look at what are the ways that we did that and come back into the truth, come back into your divinity in order to create union. If that's what you want, if you want to experience sacred union, if you want to embody the divine being that you are, if you want to be in your power, if you want to be in your sovereignty, if you want to experience freedom, then this is the path. Then that's the path. And that doesn't look linear or rational to the logical mind at all, or even to other people. And so it's that deep level of self-awareness, that deep self-trust that will guide you. Okay, I'm going to stop there so you can digest this. Take another big deep breath. Let it ground into your body. Let it ground into your feet. Bring your awareness to the soles of your feet. Maybe even imagine that you're dropping your energy, dropping your roots all the way down into the core of the earth, and just let it ground into your body and let it simmer and let it settle and let your soul receive this. Let your subconscious mind acclimate to this truth, even if your rational mind can't grasp it yet, because this is activating that soul remembrance. And then hopefully it's also activating this awareness within you to start looking more consciously at your own energy, your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own inner experience, so that you can transform it and come back into alignment with your soul, your divine truth. And if you'd like to do a free ritual to reclaim your sovereignty, I have that available as a free gift. And all you have to do, I'll put the link below. You go to the pathtosovereignty.com and you can just sign up in the little box. You also get all the Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox each week. You don't have to go searching for them, but you can still subscribe to your favorite platform if you'd like as well. And I will also invite you into the Sacred Body Wisdom Foundational Series if you want to anchor into your soul truth and learn how to embody your power and sovereignty by working with your body as energy. That's what that program guides you into through 8 powerful activations and embodiment practices. Okay. I look forward to hearing your comments. Post your questions, like this if it benefited you, and I will